The idea of the Marvel Cinematic Universe rebooting or having somewhat of a clean slate is somewhat of a controversial-ish kind of topic, or a topic of debate amongst the fandom. A lot of the side that thinks that any sort of reboot is a horrible idea, but then there's also the other side, the more like comic enthusiasts that would like to see a more proper iteration of the Marvel Universe where you have all players utilized at the same time, like the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, X-Men, Spider-Man. Now, because they're all pretty much under the Disney umbrella with like a couple of exceptions there, but at the end of the day they can all be implemented in the MCU. I don't want like a James Gunn's DCU scenario where like it's a completely different continuity, like it's a clean slate with only like a few actors here and there coming back. I don't think it should be that far. I think more so a soft reboot I think might be the best option, considering the fact that they've brought in so many new characters for phases 4 and 5. So I don't think it would be a good idea to do a complete like total reboot and recast every single person. Like they're not gonna get rid of Tom Holland's Spider-Man or like Charlie Cox as Daredevil or Iman Vellani's Ms. Marvel. And even though a somewhat of a reboot or clean slate could cause some problems, I do think it is what's best for the MCU going forward, considering they'd be like 20 years in by the time Secret Wars comes out almost. It could be a cool way to bring in newer fans. Imagine being someone completely new to the Marvel Universe or the MCU and you're trying to get like caught up and like watch everything. You'd have to consume pretty much like all 23 movies in the Infinity Saga, and then on top of that, God knows how many hours of content culminate with the amount of TV shows and movies that have come out of phases 4 and 5 alone. Like phase 5 is not even done yet at the time of this recording, and it can kind of help the Marvel Universe refocus on the characters that they should put heavy emphasis on and who the main players are going forward. As of right now, I think one of the biggest issues with the MCU is that there are no main key players. Main 6 Avengers were the main characters, and they were the ones that we followed, with their journeys and their character arcs. But here it's just kind of like up in the air. It's like, is Shang-Chi a main player? Should we be focusing on Miss Marvel or the Eternals? Like, when's the last time we saw Sam Wilson's Captain America? He's barely mentioned. Is there even an Avengers team right now? It's just kind of baffling that they didn't go right away and introducing the Fantastic Four and X-Men when they pretty much had every right to, considering the fact that Disney had purchased 20th Century Fox. But instead they decided to focus on like these mediocre Disney Plus shows and introducing characters that no one asked for, in comparison to like, hey, we want to see X-Men, we want to see, Richards and, Sue Storm and whatnot. And it would be pretty difficult to like have new castings of characters if they were to go this route that would be on par with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man or Chris Evans as Steve Rogers. But I do think, in the topic of the main Avengers, I do think one of the characters that needs a new retelling of their story is Bruce Banner the Hulk, because the way they have single-handedly damaged the Hulk's character in the MCU needs to be studied. Like, it's actually insane. Like, I genuinely believe Marvel hasn't really known what to do with the Hulk character since like Age of Ultron, because in that movie the only thing that had going for him was his weird relationship with Black Widow, and then after that it was just downhill from there. Like, you had him in Thor Ragnarok, which wasn't like horrible, but like he had this kind of baby like mentality, like just almost childlike mindset, which isn't really the Hulk. And then they turn him into an absolute wuss in Infinity War, where he just gets like two-shotted by Thanos and just never comes out again. And then you have the Hulk character going through this major shift and turning into Professor Hulk off screen. Like, I feel like in modern times when people think the Trinity of Marvel, they probably think like Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. It's like, no, it's supposed to be Spider-Man, Hulk, and Wolverine, but due to the popularity of the MCU, a lot of people can't really fathom that fact, especially when it comes to the Hulk, just how dirty they've done the character. Like, they got this, my man's doing yoga right here, bro. Like, it's insane how the character really peaked in the first Avengers movie over 10 years ago. There was just so much missed opportunity to delve deeper into the dichotomy of the Hulk and Bruce Banner's personality, and how they differ, and the struggles that Bruce Banner has to go through. The side characters, maybe see more of Betty Ross, see more of the Rogues Gallery, like the leader, which we never got up until Captain America Brave New World. It's like only now, or in like future in 2025, when Captain America Form comes out, then we're gonna see General Thunderbolt Ross again, possibly turn into Red Hulk. We're gonna see the leader again. It's like, why did it take this long to see some of the other Hulk characters that we haven't seen since 2008? But yeah, with that in mind, I do think that we need a new iteration of the Hulk. I just can't have this version of the Hulk be the mainstream version of Hulk that audiences are presented with. Like, this is just not the Hulk from the comics or any proper iteration of the Hulk. We need Savage Hulk again, give us like a World War Hulk movie or whatever it is you're gonna do. And honestly, Thor really isn't safe from this topic of discussion either. Like, I think Taika Waititi also single-handedly ruined the Thor character. Now, Thor Ragnarok did reinvigorate the interest of the Thor character amongst the general populace of moviegoers and MCU fans, but it seemed like they learned the wrong lesson and decided Taika Waititi to cook with like no restraints, and we just got a dumpster fire that was Thor Love and Thunder. Thor in the MCU probably has the most inconsistent characterization I've seen out of any like superhero. Like, bro's serious in one end, you know, they go with the more mythological aspect with the character, you know, from the comics and whatnot, and then all of a sudden he's just a goofball. And then they kind of take it, you know, a good balance of humor and the more serious tones of his character and like the struggles he's gone through in Infinity War. Like, that is peak Thor. And then boom, you got an Endgame. And that's 2 Avengers they ruined in Endgame. Like, there's just so much of Thor's mythology and lore in the comics that have just been completely either minimized or just left out entirely. Like Enchantress, for example, a really, you know, common like Thor villain. But the worst of them all probably has to be how they adapted the Gore the God Butcher storyline from Jason Aaron's run of the Thor comics, like with Gore the God Butcher himself, or just Jane Foster turning into Thor in the cancer storyline. They just completely butcher that whole storyline in one movie. So in my opinion, seeing a new iteration of Thor wouldn't piss me off too much, and I think that if Marvel were to do a reboot route, I think they just need to delve deeper into being more comic accurate, as I think that's been kind of an issue with the MCU, considering the fact that the producer himself stated that they intentionally don't hire, you know, writers, directors who are actually really big fans of the comics, which is really stupid. It's like, you need to understand that these are comic book movies. Like, you don't need to shy away from that because you think it's too silly. Like, I didn't come here to see some realistic, grounded take of a superhero. Like, I came to see a superhero movie. Embrace that. When it comes to recastings in the MCU reboot, I think one of the more prominent ones that I think we're guaranteed to see is a new T'Challa Black Panther, as I think we do need a new T'Challa Black Panther in the MCU. I already made a video going over like why, you know, into specifics and how important of a character he is. T'Challa is one of the most prominent Marvel heroes in the comics, and I think it is a missed opportunity to completely remove him out of the equation. I do understand that Chadwick Boseman's passing is kind of a difficult topic in terms of what to do with that character. You know, there'd be a lot of people that would be against a recast, and you know, there obviously is a lot of people that think this was the right decision. But I feel like a character like T'Challa represents so much, not only for Marvel Comics, but to other demographics of fans who look up to a character like that, as it's not really common to see really powerful black leads in these superhero roles that are done properly. And so like removing a black male lead from that entirely, I think is kind of a misstep though, or miscalculation. I think he's just way too important. He's also just a really cool character and has served a really important role in these big events like Secret Wars. He's just done a lot of really cool things. And you're already getting rid of the idea of properly adapting some of these stories by killing off that character, like Doom War, for example, or the really interesting like rivalry between him and Namor. Because as interesting as these stories of Wakanda are, at the end of the day, anything related to the Black Panther story, whether it be through comics, movies, whatever, what makes them interesting is the T'Challa Black Panther character himself, not just, you know, Wakanda or the sidecast. If you remove him from the equation, then a lot of it, what makes it interesting, is gone. So then you have to do a lot of heavy lifting to make it even remotely interesting. Also, it would be more of the perfect time than ever to have like the T'Challa and Storm relationship, as, you know, we're obviously going to get mutants and the X-Men in this new iteration of Marvel. A slightly altered continuity could better explain the presence of mutants in the MCU. I'm assuming that the ramifications of Secret Wars, you know, would be like, hey, now mutants have been here this whole time in this new era of Marvel. They'll probably do something similar to what they did in the comics, where they do kind of like merge some things. Miles Morales, so the Ultimates universe, or just him himself in the Ultimates universe getting destroyed, but he transfers over into like the new 616 Earth for Marvel. Because you can't make characters like James Howlett or like Apocalypse or Magneto recently get their mutant gene abilities. Like they're old as hell. Like they have to have been here for a really long time, especially with Magneto's Jewish heritage and like him being like a Holocaust survivor, which I hope they don't alter that origin in any way. Like, don't modernize that. That is very integral to the character. And even though I am excited to see Hugh Jackman's Wolverine coming back in Deadpool 3, I hope he's not the main Wolverine after Secret Wars, like this new era of Marvel. I really hope they just recast every single mutant character or X-Men related character aside from Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, because I don't even know if a Wolverine exists in the MCU as of right now, or whatever they're gonna do with that, because there is like a Wolverine Easter egg in like She-Hulk. You see like one of those articles of man with like knives, claws or whatever, like fighting in a bar. So like I don't know if that's in reference to like Hugh Jackman events in Deadpool 3, or if there actually is a 616 version of Wolverine. I don't know what they're gonna do with that. But regardless, I do think that we need to be introduced to a new Wolverine in the, you know, years to come, Maybe we can have like a Hulk versus Wolverine kind of intro, whether it be on like Disney Plus or like a Hulk versus Wolverine movie that introduces not only 616 Wolverine, but also the new iteration of Hulk that I hope we're gonna get, because like I said, bro's been done dirty for way too long now. But yeah, like I just think an MCU reboot just brings up a multitude of possibilities that I think will be better for the future of the Marvel brand, as you can bring in a new variety of tone. As like, hey, we're not gonna do what we did previously where most movies have the same feel and style to them. You can bring in a variety of comic enthusiasts, writers, directors who can bring their own vision to it, but also have a better emphasis on who the new cast of characters are. Personally, I wouldn't be against recasting Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. However, if you do go that route, just don't make them the center focus like you did with the Infinity Saga. Have the Mutants and the Fantastic Four be the face of Marvel, and kind of play around with like some of the more minor Marvel team-ups. I think that's something we could really see going forward, like Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four, or Tony Stark and Reed Richards, T'Challa and Storm, like I mentioned earlier. For whatever route they go in the future after Secret Wars, I just hope that they're willing to hire good writers and directors like they did with the Infinity Saga to match that level of quality again.